congratulations. 20 years. 20 years of anything is something. You retire out of the military, 20
Thank
years.
you, brother. Thank you.
But no alcohol for 20 years. Congratulations. And as we were talking about it, tomorrow, October 1st, is my 2-year anniversary of no alcohol. So it's kind of funny.
Not planned.
Not planned. That wasn't planned. I had no idea, and Jack had no idea either. It's kind of funny. The last time I was in that studio you're in, and Charlie was there, it was when I was about to hit 1 year. And I'll never forget that's what Charlie was more interested in talking about than anything else was me not drinking alcohol anymore.
So when you had that conversation, now, I talked about it. I said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of waking up like this in the times that I would do it. And I wanted to change. Charlie, I mentioned, I know he was big on Huberman and sort of the physical effects, the mental effects. He's like, look, if I got to be on campus here, going back and forth with these kids, I got to be sharp, and I got to keep my senses sharp. I got to have my wits sharp. I can't be doing that. What was it for you 2 years ago? What brought you to it?
Man, I think, in the military, it's easy to stay in shape. I mean, at least it's supposed to be, because you got no choice, right?
They pay you to. They literally pay you to work out.
Correct. And so when I got out and we started doing this Dear America thing and everything, a very common tale that you hear entrepreneurs and things, they start off here and then work starts to go and then they start to like just go, and less working out and less this, more and more drinking from stress and things like that. I want to be clear, because I don't want to take away from anyone who has an addiction or anything like this. I stopped for health reasons. I had gotten up to, I'm 5'10", I'm short, and I had gotten up to almost 240. I mean, I just got completely out of shape. I've got asthma from the burn pits in Iraq, couldn't breathe, like just miserable all the time. And one day I was just like, man, I can't do what I know God wants me to do unless I take care of the body that he's given me first. And so
Amen.
That was it, man. I kind of cold turkeyed it and radically changed my diet. No more drinking, no more nothing. 60 pounds later, I mean, here we are 2 years later.
I love that. It's interesting too, because I've noticed it started to become more of a trend, so Tucker doesn't drink. Trump, of course, has never had alcohol. But I'm telling you, when I started this 20 years ago, there was so much prejudice against you when you were like you're like the odd man out, and everybody knows those sayings like, oh, you can't trust a guy who doesn't take a drink, or must be something wrong with you, or, well, oh, are you going to judge me? And then people would, and I'd even ask you this, have you ever faced like little subtle ostracism from like friends or something where they say, hey man, we're all going out tonight, you want to come? And you're like, well, yeah, I'll have a soda, I'll have a coffee. And then suddenly they don't text you back. There's so much of this just deeply ingrained into our culture. But I do feel like from 20 years to today that there's been a change.
Yeah, I put it to kind of like the pastor effect. A priest, it's pretty easy to identify a priest, but not everybody knows someone's a pastor. And a pastor told me once, it's like, once they find out I'm a pastor, they they change how they act.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of the same
and it's like,
thing.
I didn't say anything. Like, I've never said anything to any of any buddies in the Navy or just like whatever. Like, you do you, right? Like, this is just what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, everybody assumes it's a religious thing for me, and or that I was, an alcoholic. And again, I don't want to take away from anyone who struggles with addiction. My hat is off to any person that is fighting that battle any day. I want to be clear about that.
Amen.
But it's not a religious thing or anything. It was simply that, like you and, we all were trying to keep up with Charlie. We have to operate on such this high tempo all the time that I got no place in my life for it. And now that I've been off of it for 2 years, it never benefited me at all. And it's made me have to learn how to engage and relax and have a good time without a sedative to put me in that mindset.
I used to have to tell because, you know, depending on the situation, especially just like you say, being in the military, you never know where you're at, you're overseas, and you might be visiting some other country, and then you're in this country. I remember, I'm not going to name the country, but I was overseas and I was visiting, we were doing a liaison mission with another country's military. And suddenly they were saying, okay, well, we're all going to go drink now because the mission's done and we're going to celebrate. And I said,
Yeah.
well, actually, I don't drink. And they're like, every head in the room turns like, what's this guy's problem? What's this guy's deal? So
Yeah.
there were times where, you know, I don't know if I'm like confessing or whatever, but I would just say, look, I have an allergy, and to
Yeah.
kind of like get past that moment, because like there are times where people know what it's like. You know, it's like, hey, I have an allergy. Like, actually, you know, I can't. It makes me really sick, and it just gets you through that because it's something where it's so deeply ingrained into not just our culture but other cultures around the world that
Yeah.
you know it's like an insult if you won't share a drink with somebody. And look, I get it. Like, alcohol's obviously been part of the world for millennia at this point, and nothing's ever going to change that. But what I have control over, and it sounds like this is what you're saying as well, is if I can't control the world and can't change the world. I mean, I try a little bit every day, I guess, but the way Charlie, of course, tried. But I know I can control myself 100%. And if I can
Yeah.
control myself, then that's one thing that I can choose, and I'm going to choose to do that for me. And it sounds like that's what you're saying too.
Yeah, I think it's a very biblical principle too. Not that anything's wrong with drinking, or I think it's anti-biblical or anything. What I'm getting at is
It
the
says drunkenness. The
ability.
Bible says drunkenness.
Correct, correct. But the ability to, abstain from something, the ability to have control over yourself, to be able to just,
Fasting.
you correct, to say no to something. Andy Frisella, he's a good friend of mine. He owns First Form. He has a podcast, and I'll never forget, he had something where he said along the lines of, everybody wants to say that they're in control. You're in control. I've got it. It's under control. Look in the mirror. Are you under control? Do you have your life under control? Because if you can't take care of the body that God has given you, how can you take care of anything else? And I'll never forget that really stuck with me. And so again, for me, I'm not saying that I will never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, ever have a beer or something again. What I'm saying is, after 2 years, I haven't missed it. It's done nothing but benefit me and my health. And I don't really see a reason to go back to it.
No, no, it's like that. You know what's funny too, man? And I know you got to run, but what's amazing is I don't miss it even 1 second. But I will say that when I drank, I would smoke, and every once in a while, just randomly out of nowhere, I'll be like, have a good meal or something, and then I'll be like, man, I could go for a cigarette. And I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? It just kind of like pops in there. And that's that chemical dependency. That's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people attach like an emotion to things, like in the South, like eating is like a huge deal in the South, whereas up north, eating is just something you got to get on the go as you're going. I think drinking.
It's so true.
Yeah, but in the South, it's like a big deal. Everybody's got to stop. It's like 2 hours long to have a meal together. But drinking, especially in military culture in general, I was Army. It's just so ingrained in the culture that's just what you do and how you do it. But our metabolism and our everything doesn't stay the same for forever, and then we have to adjust. I think there's many married men. The dad bod and all this stuff. I think there's many married men that every man has had to make a choice at some point in his life. Am I going to embrace the dad bod life, or am I going to try to be as healthy as I can be to provide for my family and to carry out the mission that God has for me to do?